guest this evening is a one-woman army with a background in classical, metal, and industrial music. She has been forging her own DIY path with spectacular results. She is also an advocate for suicide prevention and dog rescue organizations. Please welcome to the Eclectic Arts virtual studio, I Ya Toyah.
Hello. Hi, thank
Hi.
you so much for having me.
No, thanks for taking the time. How are you doing over there in Chicago?
We're doing pretty fine. The quarantine vibes and the COVID-19 pandemic is still with us. So it's sort of on and off situation like all over the America right now. But, gotta keep going.
Yeah, for sure. As we were kind of talking pre-show, for the pandemic, at least here in Seattle, and we were one of the first front and center. We were the first front and center city because everyone was looking at us initially back at the end of January into February, and then it started spreading around the country. So, for yourself in Chicago, what was that timeline like? Was it like around March when things started to shut down in Chicago, and then you had to figure out what you were going to be doing, or can you kind of speak to that?
Yeah, so the things started to become scary. And about 15th of March, when they really started talking publicly about what's happening, and there had been talks about shutting things down. And I remember it was that last weekend, about March, was it March 16th or 18th, when it was just like the very last weekend, and they were already warning everybody not to go out and engage in social life because of the pandemic, but people still would go out and they would still, party. So the day after, it was Sunday, and they announced that they are closing everything. And then it was just like, wow, like such a silence in my head. I remember that, like, what's going on? What's with everything else? What's with all the plans? What's gonna be? And here we are, right?
Mhm.
Several months from that moment, and we are still asking ourselves the same questions, basically. So,
Yeah, it's. I
crazy.
mean, it's definitely crazy, and we were all thinking, I think, the same thing that well, maybe this will last for a few months, and we can deal with a few months. But then it became 4 months, 5 months, 6 months. We're looking at concerts not till next year, most likely. And even that's still got a question mark over it. There's nothing for certain about 2021, being the fix all for all of this kind of thing. We're just hoping it becomes like if we have a vaccine and whatever else that we need. But,
Yeah.
all you can do is just hope that things, go well at that point, and then deal with what you have in front of you. And in your case, you've done a lot of things through your own home recording studio and things being DIY. So that's got to be a plus for you that you're not reliant on having to go someplace else that may have shut down for a month or two during the pandemic, that you could just
Okay.
work from home. So
Okay.
is that what you've been doing during this time?
Oh, definitely. Yes, I've been working on my new EP. So this EP idea came sort of with pandemic because my moods, changed very much, very rapidly from what I've been before, and then these emotions and this sort of like a terrifying feel inside of me. I had to get it out, so I started writing unexpected album, unexpected release. As prior to the pandemic, I was preparing to make a different album, and so it's still there, and I'm gonna do it next. But now it's the pandemic music, pandemic release, and it's gonna be just 5-piece EP. And I'm almost done working on it. I'm still tweaking things, still working on production side of that. uh, I started working on the video for the first single, and that fulfilled me for majority of time. I've been very busy just working on that, and I'm very excited to share that. But other than this, I've been on, like, my mind is all over the place. So I've been working on the suicide prevention auction, and that keeps me very happy, but also very busy. It's a bunch of artists from across United States that painted and donated art that was based on the lyrics of my songs. And
Hmm.
so I'm putting this auction together now, plugging everything into the platform, the charity platform, and we're gonna be rolling with that later this year. I believe it's gonna be starting in August already, so very soon, and we will be most likely finishing it in September with like a little bit of a live stream
Mhm.
with announcements and so on. but I just feel very lucky and very honored to be able to do this, and to have all those amazing artists to give me their art to create and to, you know, uh, participate. I feel like suicide prevention and mental health are a big stigma in our society. And I feel like this kind of thing, when we talk about it for art and music, is a deal changer. It opens our minds to, the fact that it's okay not to be okay, and
Mhm.
we should talk about it. We should get it out there. So yeah, I feel very happy about that project, working on it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you for doing that. I was going to say that I've seen those pictures you've posted of you meeting up with the artists to get the art from them. I didn't realize that the art was based on your lyrics, though. That's even more special then in terms of
Yeah.
what inspired the artist. So I saw you wearing your "fuck the virus" mask and going around
Yeah.
and getting this tremendous art that's going to be going for the auction to raise money for suicide prevention. So no, I thought that was one of the best things I'd seen someone do during this pandemic time out there from the arts world.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yes, lyrics, because the Code Blue album it's my debut album. I released it first as I Ya Toyah 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago. And this album is basically talking about mental health and about suicide and, dealing with different gravities of emotional distress that we all carry within ourselves. But so I thought that that could be like a cool, sort of like a cross, think music and art, and then that message of suicide prevention and mental health. And yeah, I do other, other songs that I wrote as well are part of it. So my dog, for example, he has his own single. It's called Forbidden Bark. And I have artists, amazing artists, that painted such a beautiful piece. I actually want to show it if you don't mind,
Oh
because
yeah,
that's such
please.
a beautiful. I have it right here. Yeah. So that's it. It's like my dog's face.
Yeah,
And yeah, so there is a lot of good emotions and good vibes happening around that.
that's cool. And your dog's name is Bennick, is that right?
Benek, yes, K is the last letter.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Basically, an old school old man's Polish name.
That's awesome. Yeah, because I've seen. I think even today there was a picture of you like in the pool with your dog.
Yeah,
Like, it's
I
white,
mean,
right? You're,
his little white rescue. Got him when he was 3.5. He's been through terrible life before, but so I promised myself that he's gonna have the best life. And also, he became my emotional support animal. So I'm allowed to take him on tour. He can travel with me, stay with me anywhere, and it's awesome to have him. It's just a additional dose of happiness for me.
right. No, you're hitting a lot of buttons for myself or a lot of the members of Alice. A lot of their fans or all of us are, I think, animal lovers of some sort. One of my guests 2 interviews ago was Saskia, who is the founder of the Los Angeles Guinea Pig Rescue. So she's been doing that work for like 11, no, longer than 11 years, but for a long period of time of doing this rescue work with guinea pigs. And she's got horses on her ranches that she also rescues. So, and then I know you're directly involved with which dog rescue is it that you're directly doing work with?
So it's No Dogs Left Behind. And this
Okay.
particular organization focuses on dogs that are being tortured and consumed in Asia, with focus on Chinese and Korean markets. And, it's just tremendous amount of awful torture that is happening there. People can watch documentaries on it online. It's something that once you see, you can't unsee it. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
absolutely awful what we as humans are capable of. It's awful.
Yeah, no, again, being someone that has grown up with dogs and different types of pets over the years and that kind of thing, it's like even just educating myself as we are talking with the gal from the guinea pig rescue, there's certain things I learned from her that I didn't know I was doing wrong, but
Yeah,
that's why you try to educate yourself. And the
yeah,
person that doesn't care about that won't even bother. They'll just do
yeah,
whatever they're doing and keep doing it wrong.
yeah.
And that's on the nice side of things. Obviously, what you're talking about in terms of consumption and whatever else in some of the Asian countries is a whole other a whole other ball of wax. So,
It is.
um,
It is,
Yeah.
especially when the torture is involved, because consumption is one thing. It's a very cultural, it's a cultural thing, right? When people are used to different things and they grow to these habits. But if there is a torture, it's like, it's something else because we can fix that. We can target that easily. We just look into our hearts, right? We ask ourselves the question, do we want to participate or do we want to bring a change? And that's where it starts. And luckily, No Dogs Left Behind and other organizations that do similar thing, they're able to really bring that change. And it's gonna take years. It's gonna be, probably a decade or even more, because it's all about the cultural change. It's all about bringing that knowledge to people. And cool thing is that the younger generations in China and in Korea, they already know. They have dogs, and they know that these are the pets. These are part of family. They are not food, and so all that needs to happen is to reach out to those poor village communities that often rely on that meat and on that kind of awful situation. So yeah.
Yeah, no. So it sounds like that organization's doing some really great work. And then again, I know that you're also an advocate for a specific organization for suicide prevention. Can you speak to that a bit too?
Of course. So I am actually field advocate for American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. And the organization is amazing. They focus on targeting legislative law and making, changes in the law that would positively affect mental health. So things as, we break the leg and we go to doctor and we get the treatment. But when we break our minds, we don't often get that. We are frowned upon, we are judged, like if something is wrong with us. But it's not true. It's the same thing like if a body part broke, it's part of our body, it's part of who we are. So American Foundation of Suicide Prevention, they fight with that stigma as well, and they bring awareness, of what's happening, of what should be versus what we have. And it is amazing what results are being achieved. There is also a hotline that they made happen, so now you can call the number directly and be, able to talk to somebody when you are troubled. There are hotlines in different languages now, so if someone is Hispanic and doesn't really speak English, which often happens, especially with older generations, they're just not able to learn the language the way younger people are. They can now call, and there is going to be someone assisting them in their language.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I mean, that's something that it's something I've had to talk about with in my professional life. I used to work with students who were dealing with many different issues. One of them was definitely suicide ideation and things of that nature. So, and one of my really good friends and coworkers said exactly what you just said about that. If you break a leg or you come down with a cold, you go to the doctor and they try to do something to fix you. But if you have something going on with your mental health, and you're supposed to go see a therapist or a counselor, but the society has made it seem like, oh, if you do that, there's something wrong with you, and you
Yeah.
shouldn't do that, and you might not be stable. We should keep our distance from you, and it's such a wrong way of thinking. And it's taking, it's great to see some inroads happening and have been happening over the years. And we have a long way to go still, but the fact that something's happening is a plus for sure.
Yes, definitely. We have a very long way, very long road to still go on, in order to like make things better. Even things such as doctor, and medication that is being prescribed, often wrongly and often without the care, ending up in patient getting terrible depression and not being able to function at all. So this kind of thing, the research and the money that would be allocated to that research and making that area of healthcare better is very important.
Yeah, no, well said. I couldn't agree more. So, I mean, there's things that you have in common with your work with the suicide prevention group, and then with the No Dogs rescue group as well, that you already have in common with Alice and myself and everyone else here. So it's so you're kind of seeing maybe a little bit of the wizard behind the curtain kind of thing. That it wasn't just about you musically. I knew behind the things that you had a direct tie to were things that we also have a very vested interest in. So that's why I was so glad that you could come on and talk about some of these things.
Like this.
Because but so let's kind of shift gears a little bit. And I know that you were born in Poland, and before your family moved to the U.S. in the early 2000s, what was life like back for you back in Poland before you came to the U.S.?
Well, I grew up in a poor family, so I didn't have toys when I was really young. I got them later, and I've had them. My parents really tried to meet the ends to provide me with everything that a girl my age would need and want. But meanwhile, when it was tougher, and I remember I was just like barely maybe 4, I would use vegetables to play with them. I would try to carve the carrot and potato, and they would be my dolls, which I think sort of opened my mind to being creative. I also loved music since forever. They told me that I was singing before I remember. So I was still like in a crib when they were like noticing that I'm moving to the music, and if they stopped playing music, I would start screaming and crying. So I guess whatever upbringing that was, it probably helped me be who I am today. So I'm thankful for it. And other than that, uh, a lot of things similar, but a lot of things different. I guess Polish mentality is different than American, and I really liked American mentality when I first arrived here, just for vacation, just like sort of more easygoing and open towards people. Whereas in Poland, if you walk down the street, you will just see people very serious and like just concentrated on themselves. I really like connecting with people. I like smiling to people. So when I got here, I'm like, yay, this is awesome. This is a place for me. So I stayed.
Okay, so how old were you when you came to the U.S. then to stay to live?
Oh, wow. I was 20, 21, actually. 21. But I was traveling back and forth. I knew I'm going to stay, but I had school to finish. So I had to finish my school, and when I did my master degree, I did stay forever.
Okay, and what was your master's degree in?
I finished university, and you won't believe this, international relations and politics.
Oh, okay.
Very unartsy. But I really enjoy the fact that I did that. I think it helped me embrace a lot of things in my life. Ability to connect with people that, it's my natural thing, but then connect with them, uh, even with skills such as negotiations. It's sometimes very important. So I feel that education definitely taught me a lot. And studying was very rough. It's nothing like studying here in America. You really have to, those exams are just like mind-blowingly difficult. Here you often have like tests, multiple choice. There you go, and you have like 5 people. It's like the whole chamber that will ask you questions, and you have to give them very detailed answers. And if you don't, then you're not going to pass. So, it was this many books every week to bring from library or study online as well. But, a lot of physical books because they were unique books, older books that we had to study in connection to history. So, yeah, it was a very good experience, definitely. I finished school here in Chicago. I graduated in 2016, and this is music business school. And I must tell you that not the level of education, but the amount of time that I had to spend to get this education versus the other, completely different approach, different mindset. And I really enjoyed the school here in Chicago, but the other one taught me life.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in some ways, you kind of got the best of both worlds from both of your degrees then in terms of what they gave to you. So that's really something special then.
I really feel that way. Yeah.
Wow. So that also kind of gives me some more background then of what, with you being DIY as an artist, that you have some education background foundation behind that. It's not like you just kind of, I'm sure there's some trial and error, but not as much as maybe the average person that just says, I'm going to start my own project and doesn't know what they're doing. You seem like you already have it. Plus you were in other bands prior to your current project. So you had things to build off of already.
Yeah, that's true. But yes, education definitely helped me, you know. And I always say that education itself is one thing because we have such access to everything these days. You can go online and literally YouTube anything you need, and you can learn if you have stamina, if you have the willpower. But education to me is ability to focus and to stay on track, you know. So if I commit to something, so that I'm able to do it and do it the best way possible, like anything that I do in life. That's sort of like a rule that I have. And I was able to graduate with like valedictorian, you know, situation. So I was very proud. Had a speech, and yeah, it was awesome. But definitely, you know, the school knowledge and learning how to stay these hours, you know, building things, working on them, not giving up, but continuing. It gave me a great foundation for what I'm doing with I Ya Toyah today. It's sort of like I'm laughing. I'm running like a little independent label because that's really what it is. It's like doing this every day, and I work for hours every day just on things related to I Ya Toyah. So it's crazy.
Yeah, and again, there's something I think you have in common with Alice because they're, working on recording new songs, they're working on their new music video, they're working on the virtual tour stuff, they're dealing with me, they got
Yeah.
all these things that they have to work on because they're not, for the most part, are not hiring out somebody to put on their light show or anything else that they do during the virtual tour. They're doing it.
Yeah.
And it's just like what you're talking about. So again, you definitely have that in common with them. And once this pandemic's done, if the band ever finds themselves near Chicago, maybe you guys will be able to do a show together or something. Because I feel that there's a symmetry there for sure, based on the type of music and the approach of what you guys do. So
That's it.
uh, yeah, and congratulations on being valedictorian too, because
Thank
that's
you.
no that's not a small feat by any means. And I want to take a little side note just to let everybody out there know that. So pre-pandemic, I've done all kinds of in-person interviews, and I'm always the one that needs to. The publicist will say, contact the tour manager on the day of the show, and you work out the time at the venue and all this kind of stuff. I've had in my life one tour manager that got a hold of me first, and I was just blown away by that. I remember I looked on my phone like at 12:30, and there was a message from, hey, will 6 p.m. work at this, blah blah blah. And I'm like, holy crap! And the reason why I say this to everybody out there is because setting up these interviews, I Ya Toyah was so on top of every detail question, getting something sent to me, promoting her appearance. I couldn't thank her enough, and it's the truth because, and that's not to throw shade on the other guests. It's just that it tells you how much, like she just said, that she works at trying to do the best she can with everything she does, including her communication, including her appearances, virtually or anywhere else online. And I just can't thank you enough. And it really, really impressed the hell out of me of how much you took care of those details. I'm like, this is easy. I don't have to do much of anything because the guest is really taking so much initiative with it. So again, thank you for doing that.
Oh, absolutely. It's my pleasure. And you know, you should be a sound or light guy when I play live show because I make it so easy for them. It's even easier than this. I basically come to the venue and I tell them I need no lights and all sound at zero. All the levels at zero. And that's all I need. Take a break, get the beer, and chill. They all end up loving me because I make it easy for them. I try. I mean, I bring everything with me and, like, you know, sort of control it by myself. And but yeah, I'm just wanted to mention this because it's just so nice of you to say. Thank you.
Yeah, no, again, thank you. It made my life a lot easier. So it makes everything just work well when both parties are trying to reach the same goal, which is to
Yeah.
have a successful interview. So I want to take this time. You sent us a remix video clip of a song of yours that I want to show. Can you kind of speak to what this remix is that the fans out there are going to be hearing and watching?
So the song title is Motion, and the song focuses on mental health and like mental distortions, confusion, and darkness. The remix was done by Tim Scott, who is known from projects such as Marilyn Manson, very talented, amazing soul. I met Tim Scott last year when I was to open the show for his band that was on tour in Palatine. And he's just like the best guy ever. And so is his wife. I met both of them, and they were absolute sweethearts. And so we talked about maybe doing something. And he accepted this, and he did such a great job on this remix. I just love this remix. So after I've had that remix done, I loved it so much. Then I'm like, I need to do a video for it. So I spoke with my video partner, Joel Lopez of Lumbra Productions, about it, and we immediately had an idea what we're gonna do, and we did it. And here is the video and the song, and I hope you like it.
So here we are, and that was I Ya Toyah's remix, and hopefully you got a chance to really check that out. And definitely go to her YouTube channel because she's got some amazing videos on there, and she also has some. I know there's a live clip, and there's some other kind of things that are great. So yeah, let's kind of talk about. I know that you started off with classical. I want to say piano at a young age before you started learning other instruments. So can you kind of speak to your music background a bit?
Oh, yeah. So, as I mentioned before, music was always in me. So, my parents had to target this at early age. And so, when I was very young, they sent me for auditions to Music Institute. And I got in. So, I began my education, you know, and sort of getting familiar with piano, with guitar, classical guitar, and theory, music theory, and choir as well. And so this was going on for a couple years, and I would probably have completely different life today. But when I was 12, I was in a terrible car accident, and that car accident put me in coma for a very long time. And after I woke up, and then recovery would take a very long time. It was like a year recovery, so I could not go back to music school anymore because of those issues, and also the fact that I was still at the normal school as well, and so I had to graduate to sort of have you know um, the standard path like everybody else would have. It was not what I wanted. Of course, I wanted to go back to music school, but it didn't happen, and so here we are.
Wow. Well, I'm sorry to hear that you had such a horrible car accident, but at least you managed to eventually, you know, come out of your coma, do the therapy work and everything else you need to do over a long period of time, and
Yeah.
get yourself to where you wanted to be. So that brings us, well, in a roundabout way, to I Ya Toyah. And so, when did you decide to start I Ya Toyah? Because again, I know you were in other band of different like rock and metal type of music prior to starting I Ya Toyah. So what timeline was that when you started doing I Ya Toyah?
So I Ya Toyah came to life in like about 2017. And it was at the time when my project, then like sort of like a rock project, broke up. And I was already having bad experience with bands, as I call it, before that, because my metal band broke up a couple years before that. And so I was like, hold on, is that some fatum happening? What's going on? Why are those bands always breaking up? People cannot keep up with commitment. That's how I felt. And so I was put in between the choice of finding new musician who actually left the band and broke it, or I would do something else. And I told myself, I have to think outside of box here. I can't continue doing the same thing because that's insanity, right? If you continue doing the same thing uh, and expect different results, that's not right. So I decided to go crazy and start one woman army. And I remember when I did come up with that idea, everyone around me was like, dude, it's impossible. You can't just do it. How are you going to play everything by yourself? How are you going to make music by yourself? I'm like, well, I've had a little bit of a background in production, but I started studying much harder. And that's where YouTube and all those online classes came in play. I just didn't, I would go and go and go day and night, and then started producing Code Blue album. Based on what I was learning. And I was learning as I was making the album, honestly. So my first debut album is really sort of a showcase of this, weird learning experiences. But, you know, yeah, that's where I Ya Toyah started. That's about that. 2018 was when I worked on my image and also my live show. So the live show was a very time consuming concept, because I've had this vision that I want to have video and lights programmed, and I want to play all the instruments live, which is very difficult because here are the keyboards, here is the guitar, here is the mic, here are some effects. How am I going to do all this? And it took me a very long time to make sure that I can arm all the tracks, that everything can be active and not interrupting and not taking too much space so that my laptop doesn't crash. And yeah, I managed to play the whole tour with Zwer Machine in spring 2019. without the trouble, and then the whole tour with Peak Phase later on, also without the trouble. So I think it works.
Yeah, I would say so. If you managed to do all these live shows and you didn't have any problems, and it's met your expectations, and and you do have, like, again, if you go to her YouTube channel, there's a live clip from that tour, I believe, that you put together, so you can get
Yes,
a taste of what it was like and what the video was like, and of you being a multi instrumentalist and
yes,
during all the songs, and you also have an amazing voice too on top of that.
yes,
So
so much. This was always
yeah,
my main instrument, you know. I only had to do those other things because of one woman army, and I'm glad. I really would not want to do music other way anymore. I love doing this. It's just like very fulfilling experience.
yeah, no, and again, and you definitely have such an artistic vibe too. And we are talking about this during during your video that I could easily see you doing something where if you're on tour once we're past this pandemic, like if you're doing something in conjunction with cities where, like, I don't know, performing, like, not even at the typical club, but I could see you doing your whole performance like at an art gallery or some kind of combination of working with other artists in
Yeah.
conjunction with what you do and creating something new with it.
Definitely, definitely. It's endless sea of possibilities, which is great. I love it.
Yeah, for sure. And we've got about 4 minutes or so before I'll have to say goodbye, which is unfortunate. But so, like you were mentioning, during the pandemic, you've been working on some new things that are going to be. It's going to be kind of like your pandemic music. It's going to be coming out first, and the other music you're working on is going to come out after that. Are the themes in that music then all the feelings of what you've been going through during this pandemic, just like everybody else, from the highs and the lows and the anger and the sadness and everything else, because that's what's kind of manifesting in that new music that you've been working on?
Very much so. Very much so. Yes. Album's name. I actually have not revealed it, but I will reveal it now for the very
No.
first time. Album title is Out of Order. So that probably manifests my state of mind and where I've been in this pandemic, especially in the beginning of it, and dealing with it with this out of order state. I'm like sitting, what do I do? How do I, who am I? Who are we? Like, right? This sort of like very difficult time and space. And yeah, so I feel like I really manifested those emotions in that music. I also done a lot of experimentation on this new EP. I'm still doing it, but it's gonna be different. It's gonna be stronger than my music that I released prior to that, and I'm doing many more things with my voice. I'm having fun
Mm.
with my voice, so I hope that people will find it interesting and will relate to it as well.
Yeah, no, you've already got me curious based on what you just said and how you're describing it. I think it's going to be something that's going to be really spectacular to hear, because I already know what your music's like now, and then knowing what you just said in terms of the backstory behind this new music and the experimentation that's going on with it, I think it's going to be something that's just going to probably just take you to a whole other level then in terms of what you put out there musically.
I hope so. I'm very excited to bring this new music into the world.
Okay, and in the short time that we have, I also wanted to touch on really quick that you're part of the super group, the Joy Thieves, and
Yes.
so can you kind of speak to that just in like a minute or so?
Oh my God, the Joy Tips is this amazing group of beautiful, beautiful people that are very selfless and music loving and very talented. The group started by Dan Milligan and just grew to like this extreme, uh, powerful, situations. So there is a lot going on with Joy Tips. There is going to be new music. There is going to be some stuff that I write as well. I'm working on that as we are here, and yeah, joy tips are definitely very, very, very amazing. And they are like nothing else.
Awesome. Well, I Ya Toyah, thank you so much for taking the time. It was so much fun to get a chance to finally talk with you and learn more about you and everything that you do. And I hope that you stay safe over there in Chicago, and that at some point, again, once we get past this pandemic thing, that, well, one, we'll get to hear your music, but then two, maybe I'll get to actually see you live here in Seattle, and then we can chat a little bit further then. So,
I really hope so. Everybody who saw my live show says that that's the thing everyone should see. And so I really hope that you will be able to witness my show and I'll be able to share my live music with you. And other than this, thank you so much for having me tonight. It's been a pleasure and an honor. And I hope you stay safe and healthy and creative. And yeah, hopefully we'll meet again very soon.
All right. Thank you. Have a good night and take care.
Thank you.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye.